Spring Data JPA is one of the core skills that you need to learn in a Spring Boot ecosystem. I am Oscar, and I today will have the pleasure of teaching you the Spring Data JPA. So what we will learn today? First of all, we will learn how to connect and how to create database using the Spring Data JPA. Then we will learn how to map database tables to entities. So entities are the objects that are representing the database tables, and then how to map relationships to these entities. Okay, and also I will show you the visual way of creating the tables in our database. What you need to know before starting this guide. Uh, some basic understanding of Spring Framework and Spring Boot. Basically, if you watched my other tutorials, you should be good to go. Also, some basic understanding of relational databases, so like tables, columns, and so on. Maybe writing some basic SQL queries like selects, inserts, and so on. Some working IDE. Of course, the IntelliJ Ultimate Edition will be the best, but don't worry if you don't have it. You should be able to follow it, but you won't be able to recreate the visual tools from the Ultimate Edition of IntelliJ. There's like some free version of it also, but we'll talk about it later. And also MySQL server or any other database server. If you don't have MySQL server, go to this page, so dev.mysql.com, download MySQL and select your version. We'll talk about it also later. And that's basically it. So what are the core concepts that we need to know before we go to the code? First of all, JDBC, so Java Database Connections. This is the standard API for interacting with databases in Java. It allows the Java code to execute the SQL code directly from our codebase. But we need to have for example, open connections, prepare SQL statements, and do everything manually. JDBC is very powerful, but there's a lot of boilerplate that you need to write for even simple operations. So next level, we have the Jakarta Persistence API, so the JPA. That is basically a specification for mapping Java objects to database tables. It allows us to skip the writing the SQL queries manually and just work with Java objects. It significantly reduces the boilerplate, but it's only a specification. And to use it, we need some concrete implementation, like for example, Hibernate. Hibernate is the ORM, so Object Relationship Mapper. It's also, as I said, it's the implementation of the JPA. It's very similar to, for example, if you work with .NET, it's very similar to the Entity Framework. And it also extends the JPA specification with its own query language, so Hibernate query language, and also automatic schema generation. All of this is great, but it still requires some boilerplate, some configuration, and here comes the Spring Data JPA that does all of it for us. It's further simplification of the database interaction, provides some repository interfaces for performing common operations, and how would our database look like in today's video. So basically, we have some users with ID, username, password. We have one-to-one relationship with the profile. We also have one-to-many relationship with posts. That has some title, content, user ID, and also many-to-many relationships between posts and tags. And I will show you today how to implement it. There are two approaches to now mapping this diagram to our database. First of all, we can make, for example, database first approach. So we will create the database manually and then create the classes in the code, so entities that will map these tables. This is a very common approach in, for example, larger organizations, where you have, for example, a team that is dedicated to making the databases, to managing them and administrating. And it's also model first approach. So basically we create entities and then Hibernate will create the tables in the database. In this tutorial, I will show you the database first approach. So now let's set our environment. As I said, you need to download the MySQL community server, and then I will open terminal. Give me a second. And if we go to terminal, we need to use one command to verify that we installed the MySQL. And this is MySQL u root p, okay? And here you provide the root password that you set when installing the MySQL community server. So in my case, that will be learn spring, okay? And as you can see, it should look like this when you install it. So now let's leave it, exit, and I will leave it. And now let's go to the Spring initializer. Here I will select Java, Maven, newest stable version of Spring Boot. Leave it as it is. Packaging jar, Java 21. And here I need to add some dependencies. So first of all, we obviously go with Spring Web. Next we go with Spring Data JPA and also MySQL driver because we are gonna use MySQL. I already generated the project, so you can download it and open it in your IDE. I will obviously use IntelliJ. Okay, I need to move it to the main. Okay, and now what we need to do to work with our database is go here and add new data source. I already have MySQL in recent, and here you provide the user root, and the password will be the same password you set before. So learn Spring in my case. And here, if you didn't use it before, you will need to download some drivers. So do it. And after you do it, basically IntelliJ will do it for you. You just test connection to see if it's working. Remember also to put localhost here and port 3306 to make sure it will work. Okay, we tested the connection, so now we apply it, okay, and go. Here we could already create some new table, but I want the Spring Data JPA to do it for us. So now what we need to do, first of all, I will rename it because I don't like this this naming convention. So I will just leave the application. Okay. And also I will, instead of using the Spring application properties, I will go with application YAML. Okay, and here I will just recreate it. Spring application name and D. Okay, and here we need to add some properties before, because if we run our application now, we'll see that we will get errors because the application can start because we didn't provide the property URL for our data source. So now what we will do is to provide this property. So we'll go data source, okay, URL. I will copy it. I will explain to you in a second what this string means. Okay. Also, we'll provide username, root, and password. The same password as before. So learn Spring in my case. Okay. Basically, JDBC is the protocol we are using. MySQL is the database we are using. Now, localhost, obviously, it's the hostname and port. Here is the name of our database that we will create. And this, basically what it does, is creates a database if it doesn't exist. You can set it to false or you can delete it. But in our case, I want the database to be created. So I will set it to true. Now let's run our application. Okay. Application runs. And if we go here, refresh, we see that a new table is here. We need to click this so our table is shown and select demo, and now we have our database. There's one table from Flyware schema history, but we don't care about it for now. and this is out of scope of this tutorial. So now, what we want to do, we can basically manually query the database and create some tables, but I want to show you the tool that is built in to IntelliJ. Obviously, if you don't have the, but because it's only Ultimate Edition, if you don't have Ultimate Edition, you can just basically use the query console and copy the queries I will show you. So what we need to do is now to map our database diagram. So first of all, I will create a new table, new table here, and it will be the users table. Okay, so here we set the name, and in columns we add new column. For example, we will have 3 columns. So we also have 3 columns. So first one will be ID. Instead of using it, we'll set to big int because it's the correct one for the IDs. Okay, auto increment, not null, and we can already set the primary key that will be the column name ID. Okay, as you can see, here is the preview of the statement that will be run. So if you don't have the Ultimate Edition of IntelliJ, you can just copy this statement and paste it to the query console. Okay, so ID, username. For username, also we'll use not null and varchar 225. Okay, and password also varchar 225, not null password. Okay, and here I can basically copy this and run it manually, or you can just select OK, and we have now our users table. Next, I will create profiles. Not here, but here, table profiles. Okay, columns, it has 2 columns, so bio will be text, for example, because it will be long form. So bio, okay, it can be in label, so leave it as this. And here I will set big int, and this will be the user ID because it's one-to-one relationship. Profiles are under the user. Okay, so let's create key, primary key, and it will be our user ID. Okay, and also foreign key, columns and column name user ID. Target is the users table, and here we set the target name ID. So basically to be the ID from the user. Okay, this is our profiles table. We go okay. Did I not null? We don't put auto increment here, as I remember. Okay, so we have profiles. Now let's go to posts. Table posts. Okay, and columns, we have 4 columns. So let's create 4 columns. First one ID, big int, not null, auto increment. Next is user ID, also not null, and go with big int. Okay, column name, title, varchar here 225, and name is here title, not null, and also content, not null, text. Okay, and also let's add keys now. So primary key, it will be our ID. We'll leave the name as it is. Also foreign key, columns, and here users, column name, user ID, and ID from the user. Okay, everything is correct, so let's go. And we also have our tags column. Let's go tags, columns 2, big int, and ID. Okay, next column, name, varchar 25, also not null. Okay, and the key, primary key, ID. Okay, This is correct. So let's go with next one. And also we have many-to-many relationships. So table set name tags, sorry, and also two columns begin tag ID. Here's some mistake because I only set it to the one primary key and one foreign key, but both of them are the foreign primary keys. So let's go here with post ID, also begin and not null. I can write and primary key columns, both of them, the column name, tag ID, and here post ID. Okay, and foreign keys we have from the tags. We have tag ID and ID here, and the second one is the second one is from the posts, and here we have post ID and ID. Okay, let's examine it. Should be correct. Okay, so now we did all of our database tables. So let's now go to the entities. So how we define entity? First of all, let's create some package. You can call it entities, models, basically however you want, however your team wants to, whatever your team has the naming convention for it. Basically entities, domain, models, whatever. I will stick with model because this is the convention I use. And let's open our tables here, and we'll start with user. So we'll create new user class. Okay, and we annotate it with entity. This is the annotation for the entities. We have a error here because our entity does not have a primary key. We'll set it in a moment. But first, we will also give here the name of our table because the table names could be different. For example, user is users. So, and the Jakarta API thinks that this table should be named users instead of, user instead of users. So let's name it here, users. And now let's add our primary key. So basically we do it like this. We go ID and private long ID. And now we have our ID. Also, we need to add the generated value, and the generation type we set to identity. This is basically the auto increment from the database table. Okay, and now I will also set the column name. This is good practice because the column names can change, the variables can change. So let's hard code it here and go with name equals ID. And also we can set the null label to false because it's not null label. So we have our user and his ID. Also, our user has two more columns, that is username and password. So private string username and private string password. We go with just column, name, username, null label false. Okay, column, name plus password, and label false. Basically, this annotation label false doesn't do anything if we are going with the database first approach because it's all already generated in our database. But I personally, even if I am not using the model first approach, I like to still leave it for like the explicitly telling that this field is not label. I don't have to look to the database and have to look from the documentation. I know that this field shouldn't be null in our database. Okay, so we have our user. Now let's go to other fields. So next will be tag. I will try to do it quickly, so we are not waste time. Post, post tag, profile, and basically we don't create entity for the this relationship column because it is created implicitly by Spring Data JPA. Okay, so let's start with post, for example. Post have 4 columns. So we have ID. I will basically copy ID from from every from every to every entity. Sorry, pause. Okay, entity, entity and table name posts. Okay, we have our. We also need user ID. For now, we will leave it as it is. I will change it to this because we will need it later to define the relationships. But for now, I will just leave it as column name user ID label false. Okay. Also, we have private string title, private string content. Okay, column and name content label false. Okay. Column title. And by the way, if I would have wrong name for the column, as you can see, we get a warning from the IntelliJ that this column is not existing. The same will happen if I go with the wrong name for the post. So it's kind of useful. Okay, title. So we have our posts. I think everything is here. Profile has only the user ID. User ID. Am I correct? Profiles, columns 2, user ID, yes. User ID. So I will change it to this. Next we have profiles, okay, and bio. So we have private string bio, okay, and here also column name equals bio, label for and label wasn't set, okay. So we have our profiles. And the tag is missing, so tag has its own ID and also name. So private string name column name equals name and label false. Okay, so we created our entities now. So let's define relationships between them. Also, I forget to add entity here and table and name tags. Okay, now it's correct. Did I add it and the profiles also? Okay, so let's add it also to profiles. Entity and table name equals profiles. Okay, now the warnings are gone. Also, it would be nice to create some getters and setters for all of these fields. We'll do it. I can do it right now. So let's generate it using IntelliJ. So constructor, I will go for empty constructor because we need empty constructor for the Jakarta JPA. Okay, and also constructor with all of the fields we will need. So use title and content only because this will be added later. And also let's create getters and setters. Getter and setter for every field. Okay. Now it would be nice to use some Lombok to deal with this, but for now let's leave it as it is. Also do the same thing for the tag. Sorry, profile. also for the bio, okay. Public profile, and also constructor with only bio. Okay, same thing for the tag. Getter and setter, okay. And now the, okay. And for our user, so getter and setter without the ID. We also can get getter for the ID. I think I generated setters for the ID for different other classes, but you don't have to do it. Public user, and also public user. Okay, and so we have our entities finished. How do we now define our relationships between these different entities? So if we go to our diagram, as you can see, we have one-to-one relationships between profiles and users. We have one-to-many between users and posts, and also we have many-to-many between tags and posts. So let's start with our one-to-one relationships. How we do it? So first of all, in our user, we will create an reference to our profile. Basically, we go with one-to-one, okay, private profile, okay, and in Spring we can define relationships that are bidirectional and unidirectional. Unidirectional relationships are one-sided, so only one entity knows about the other, and bidirectional relationships, both sides know about each other and can navigate from one to another. Basically, you should be doing bidirectional relationships most of the time, so this is what we will do. So here we create one-to-one, reference to the profile. Also in profile we'll do the same, so here I will go, we have here the user ID, but we also need the reference. So private user, okay, and here we go one-to-one, okay. And now what we need to do, basically this table is the owner of these relationships. Why you ask? Because conceptually the user owns the profile, right? The profile can't exist without the user, but user doesn't know about the profile. Only the profile have the reference to the user ID in our database. So our profile has the reference. I said correctly. Profile is the owner of this relationship. So in our, we need to tell Hibernate who is the owner, and we'll do it this way. Here we just go with join column, and name is user ID. Okay. Also, we put here maps ID. And in our user, we need to add one-to-one and mapped by user. Okay. I need to add something else. I don't think so. Maps by ID basically means that we are using ID as a foreign key and as a primary key. Okay. And now we also would like to test how it will work. So for now, let's do something like this. So we'll create new user. Maybe use var user equals new user. And our user will have, for example, name John and password 123 something. Okay. Okay. And also we'll create profile. New profile. Okay. And profile will have some bio like this. Okay. And our user set profile. We don't have setters for our profile, so we also need to add setter for profile. Maybe getter and setter. profile. Okay, and so we need to do the same thing in our profile. Okay. Also getter would be nice. Okay, so let's now test it. So that set profile and dot profile, and also because this is bidirectional relationships, we also need to profile set user. Okay, and now I can, for example, print our user. So let's go with south user. Our user don't have any toString, so let's generate one quickly. toString. Okay. Also generate profile, and in our profile, I will also go with a toString. Okay. And now let's run our application. And we get Stack Overflow exception. What happened? Basically, because we are printing both of these, we have two strings in both of these classes that are referencing each other. So, so toString from user is printing profile, and then this toString from the profile is printing user. So basically, we delete user from the profile, and now it should work perfectly. Okay, and we get our user with our profile. So our first relationship is working. How to now define one-to-many? Because we have our relationships between posts and users. How we do it? Basically, our user will have another field that will be private list. Or we can use, for example, set if we want to have, and we don't have to, we don't want duplicates, I'm sorry. Set posts, okay, posts, new hash set, okay. Need to download this. What is wrong here? Why the post didn't work exactly? Oh, now it's okay. Well, some weird thing in IntelliJ. Okay, never mind. We created this set posts, and now we annotate it with one-to-many. Okay, because it's one, user is one, and posts are many. Okay, now we go to the posts, and here we will have our private user, okay, and also many to one. Okay. And also here we have our user ID. So we also need to create the join column, because this relationship is owned by the posts, because posts have the foreign key. So we go with join column. That will be the name plus user ID. Okay, and and we also in our user need to add mapped by, and here we provide the name of the field in our post class. So it's user. So here we add user, so the Hibernate knows what SQL statements to generate. Okay. I think that's everything we need to do. Also, it would be nice to generate getters and setters. Getter and setter for user, and also the same thing in our our user, getter and setter, but I will actually prefer, instead of setting the whole list, to only add post, okay, post, okay, and this post add, just, okay, public void, and also remove. Also, we need here to post set user this, and here's set user to null, and we can delete this. Also, it would be nice to, for example, generate new toString with the posts, toString, and yeah, we'll go with everything. So, okay. And now our posts, okay. And our post also needs some toString, toString, and I will skip the user so we don't get the Stack Overflow exception again. Okay, and now let's test our new post. New post. Okay. Post had content and title. Okay. Title is the second one. Content. Okay. And now we add our user at posts and print our user again. User, can delete this one, and let's see if it works. Okay, and we get some error. Persistent exception, unable to build Hibernate. What is problem with which one? Was duplicated in mapping for entity. And this problem is because I made a mistake in our post. We don't need the user ID column here, because if we are using join column, we don't need to create another field for it. So let's delete this also, and from our toString, okay, and run our application again, and it should work again. Yeah, we see that our post profile and also post is also here. Okay, so we have our one-to-one relationship, we have our one-to-many relationship, but now how to define many-to-many relationship? So basically, we go to our those post and tag, right? So our tag will have now private set posts, okay, also imported. In our post, we also will have a set of tag, okay, and here basically both of these entities can be the owners in many-to-many relationships, so we just need to choose. For example, I will choose the profile. So here in our profile, I will just go, sorry, not profile, but the post. I meant post. We go with many-to-many, okay. And here we go with the join table. We select name, and the name is basically what is the name here? What the name we chose? It was post tags, okay. Posts tags, okay. Next we go with join column, and join column for this entity is the it was the post ID. Join column name equals post ID. Okay, and also we need to define join column for the other entity. So it will be inverse join column name equals tag ID. Okay, nice. And now we have our one side of our many-to-many relationships. We also need to do the same thing in the other one. So many-to-many. And also into our main-to-many, we go mapped by posts, because this is the name of the field in our other class, right? Okay. Also, it would be nice to have some sort of addition. So let's go with public void add post. Okay, post add, and public void remove post. Okay, in our post we do the same thing. So public void add tag and tag add post this. Okay. Okay, and go back to tag, post, tag this, and move. Okay, I think that there will be a problem with this. So let's go with set. No, because it's collections, so there won't be a cycle. No, never mind. Let's leave it as it is. We don't have to do a null check for it. Okay, so we created this stuff. So let's now test how it works. So we already have our post. So let's now create var tag equals new tag, and let's just call it tag. Okay, and post add tag. Okay, and sort post. Okay. Now in our profile, in our post, I will also like to print our tag. I'll do it by hand for now. Tag. It's many to many, so tags actually. Okay, and now in our tag, I will also like some form of toString, but also we will skip the pause, so there is no Stack Overflow. And let's again test this relationship. Okay, we get another problem. Property name post which does not exist in the target entity. Okay, let's fix that quickly. There's some problem. So we go to our many-to-many. Okay, here we have tags, post tags. Okay, and we go to our tag, and in tag it's mapped by. Okay, yes, obviously it's mapped by tags. That's my mistake, and should work correctly now. Okay, and we have Stack Overflow exception again. What did I do? Hash map, hash set. Probably it adds itself in. It adds itself posts add tag this. Yeah. So we need to also add here. Where's our tag? Add posts. Posts contain post. Just return. Should not work. Okay. Now works. It works correctly. So this is basically how you create database using the Spring Data JPA. How to also create entities, how to create tables using the IntelliJ, and how to define relationships. If you want to learn more about Spring Data JPA, I will soon upload a full course when we go about we'll talk about everything that is to know about Spring Data JPA from beginning to end, some weird edge cases, some weird tricks, and basically I will upload it all in my full course that is on my Skull community. If you want to check it out, see the top link in the description. Here is the next video YouTube things that you should watch, and till next time, create some amazing applications.